I couldn't be authentic. My personality is authentic, but I couldn't line up those. It's hard to say without insulting anyone because I'm not jealous of anyone's means, not at all. But it is weird to be in the room with people who have no worries about where their next meal or how they're going to buy groceries. And they're complimenting you for how awesome you are. And, I am feeling like a dirtbag bringing my garbage to work to throw it away because I don't want to spend the $5 on the bag. So that's quite the wrestling match to have to go through. And I do that often, quite often. I hope, here you go. Here's some truth, some truthiness. I would love, since my past, present, and hopefully not future has been so interesting, to say the least, and I feel like my life has touched on many different issues that we have nowadays that, like my title, My Life as a Social Experiment, honestly, it is, I would like to just donate. It's like donating my body after death to science. Take some of my experiences and learn from them. My life as a social experiment is my donation to the universe as a way to learn from certain things that maybe you don't want to go through, so you can learn how to avoid them. I can help you with that. Or things that you have been through and learn and understand, or at least have an example of someone who's still moving forward, even through the toughest of times. So if anyone's out there who wants to make a good film, and I'll help you make the film, and then you can pay me millions of dollars, and then I can be assured that my kids will be able to eat and go to college, and then I can pay back all the people who have allowed me to live, literally, and allowed me to have a home, and allowed my kids to go to camp where otherwise I wouldn't be able to get them there. The list is long of the people who have helped me get through these last few years of my life. So, if anything, if this is if these are the cards that I've been dealt in life, then I want to throw them on the table and cash them in. Because, instead of letting it burn me up, I would like, maybe it could work into my advantage, into my family's advantage. Sad but true. But anyway, let's get off of that. So the title of my podcast was That Time I Took My Clothes Off on Stage. And that's not a metaphor. I actually did that. And I did that this past March 9th to be exact. And I had it set in my mind when I was asked to be part of this variety show that featured women speaking about different things, their successes, their failures, sharing poetry, sharing stories. And I was asked to do this, and I was going to share a story and then do maybe talk about the pipe band that I'm in and perform some music. So as soon as I was asked, I had it in my mind that I wanted to do a performance piece, one-woman show. And I thought I had so much time to plan this. And what did I do? I squandered it by just setting it aside. I couldn't think of it. Didn't want to think about it. I knew in the back of my mind what I wanted to do. And when it came time for the event, I ended up designing and writing and performing the piece in one day. And it's not laziness, because I certainly wasn't being lazy about it. I think it was, I couldn't sit down and think about it too much, because then it would have been scripted, and I don't work scripted. If I am on a script, it's because I need to remember certain sponsors' names, and I would get in trouble if I didn't. So that's when I have something in front of me to write or to have stuff written down. But any other time, and this just speaks to who I am, any other time you see me, either, face to face, in a group, on stage, in my office, anywhere, you're going to find just simply me. And so this turned out to be the exact same. Now, I'm not saying that I don't plan ahead for things, because my degree in philosophy taught me that I had to work well in advance of the deadline for these papers, because otherwise it was going to be complete shite. And I made it out of college with a 3.85 GPA and very successful, so I can do it. I'm not a lazy piece of shit. But again, I knew that this performance had to be me. It had to be me in all of my authenticity on stage. So I did a little planning, and I have actually my script right in front of me that I worked from. And it's very simple. And so I got up on stage, and no one knew what I was going to do. I invited some friends of mine to play with me at the end of my performance. Some of my piping friends came, and they had no idea what I was going to do either. I told no one. I packed a suitcase with some clothes and some books and a marker and just some random bits of things. And I went over to the venue, and the night before, when we had our rehearsal, I didn't rehearse. I didn't do it. I was waiting for the day to do it in the moment. So up on stage I go, followed by my friend who has been documenting the past years of my life through video and audio and interviews, and he followed me around and followed me up on stage as I awaited my chance to go out in front of everyone. And so I walked out in a beautiful green dress with shoes on, fully dressed. And I introduced myself in my most professional manner and spoke to the audience very casually, let's say. And I walked forward downstage, as they call it, so towards the edge of the stage, to get past the lights that were in my eyes. And I engaged the audience, and I asked them, or I told them, that I need to look at people. I need to engage with people directly in order for me to feel comfortable. And so I scanned the audience from right to left and looked at as many people in their eyes as I could. And then I faded back toward the center, and they kind of washed out to me. And I began to go through my monologue. And the monologue was entitled, What Led to What? A Story Told from 30,000 Feet. So the story touched on my life, decades of stuff, from a vantage point that made everything kind of condense, or at least the details to fade into the larger picture. And that is what I wanted to do. I wanted to, first of all, speak without naming any names and have it vague enough where my story, my words, could mix with the thoughts of the people in the audience, and they could draw from what I was saying, maybe some of their own experiences. And so I introduced the piece to everyone, and I said, this is just a mere pixel. It's a teeny tiny bit. When actually, I think I had that upside down. It was the picture. And the pixels that I was talking about incorrectly were the things that I was going to leave out. Or at least, those were the bits that they could fill in on their own. So I went about my one-woman monologue with a broad brush. And I just did it. And I knew that I was going to do what I did next. So I sat down in a chair and I proceeded to take off my shoes, take off the dress, and it was down to just black bra, black underwear. And I introduced myself as a former gymnast. And I demonstrated some of the things that I'm still capable of doing. And I don't know what people were thinking as I was stripping down on stage. I don't know who or what the person who invited me to come and perform was thinking as I was stripping down on stage. And I certainly don't know what my children were thinking or anyone in the audience. Here's this person just taking it all off. I didn't strip naked. Maybe that's for another day. But so it was, okay, with all joking aside, it was a metaphor for what the piece ended up being about. And what it was about was being stripped down to nothing and surviving it. And so I went through the monologue, and I won't go detail by detail. It's actually on video somewhere, and I haven't seen it. But in the end, when I went through a couple of transitions in the piece, and at one point I did put on some clothes and then took them back off, and I gathered them all up and I shoved them back in the suitcase and had a argument on stage with an invisible person, and ended up taking the suitcase and dumping it out and throwing it off the stage, or stage right. So not off the stage. Nobody was in danger. And then I walked off. You could hear a pin drop in that room. And during the show, I could hear people gasping for air. And I guess that's what I was going for. And I didn't give out any details. It was just simply some words and a lot of action. And at the end, taking away all of the items that were in my suitcase and tossing them aside represented the fact that I had just thrown away nearly my entire life, willfully. And when I was introduced, before I went and did that performance piece, I was introduced as a self-proclaimed minimalist. And that's honestly what I've become. And so that piece represented the process, I suppose, of becoming that minimalist. And I'm leaving out so many details because I could be talking so long, too long, and I need the content for other days. But just to sum up the